pass at the same time a final budget for the current year that we're just finishing up. Of course, our fiscal year goes from July 1st to June 30th. And so as we pass an initial budget, that budget becomes effective this upcoming July 1st for the 2023-24 school year. Delpha, go ahead and advance the slide.
I have to turn it on. It's amazing how you have to turn it on, Tim.
Okay. So we begin our formal budgeting process in April once we get numbers from the state for our state funding, which comprises a majority of our budgetary funding. And then we work through that process for the next month and a half to 2 months until literally the day of this board meeting when the board will pass a budget. We're constantly getting updates to our budget numbers. So what I present here and what's presented in the budget document is accurate as of yesterday, June 14th, 2023. By the way, if anyone is interested, there's a paper copy of the budget out on the table in the foyer there. Gary's got one, and Jenda, and Tim. Okay.
Good, faithful employees. You must stay with us forever.
Just a few components of our budget. Of course, assessed valuation will tie into our property tax information that I'll talk about in just a minute. Our assessed valuation is just under $10 billion, and that includes all properties that are within the boundaries of the Cache County School District. Our initial estimate from the state for the upcoming year was a little bit north of 10 billion, about 10.2. So the valuation came in a little bit less than what we were expecting, but not too far off. And that does include about 325 million in new growth, which new growth consists of new homes or businesses that are built during the year, and taxing entities are able to receive additional revenue from new growth beyond what the regular certified tax rate would qualify for. Our estimated fall enrollment is 19,666. We're really close to 20,000, and I suspect we'll get there within a year or two, but we're not quite there. We've added about 5 new teaching FTEs into our budget. So the growth is not as substantial as it has been in years past, especially the last 4 or 5 years. It's less than that, but we still do have some growth. Our number of employees is around 3,100. We operate 10 funds in the school district. An example of a fund would be the general maintenance and operation fund, or our capital projects fund, or a school food services fund. So we have 10 different funds that are independently balanced. And we also operate about 130 programs. An example of a program would be special ed or CTE or driver's ed or things like that. And each program we also have to balance the program with revenues and expenditures. So there are a lot of numbers that we swim through to put a budget together. Okay, let's go ahead, Delpha. Okay, just a few what I am calling significant impacts on the budget for this next year. We received a 6% increase in state weighted pupil unit funding, and the value per WPU next year will be $4,280. We also saw an educator salary adjustment increase of $4,200 per educator. The legislature years ago passed a different set of bills that already included $4,200, so this doubles that, so that the educator salary adjustment is now $8,400 per educator. We've included in the budget proportionate increases due to increasing enrollment. So if a school has 20 more students, we allocate additional supply funding for those students, or custodial supply funding, etc. We did have property tax growth, to the tune of $325 million in the county. No retirement rate increase for our employees. The health insurance premium did increase 15%, and we have a compensation increase of 8% across our salary schedules, plus steps and lanes. We are continuing to use one-time ESSER funds in a variety of ways, and a lot of those funds continue until September of 2024. So they will continue to be used throughout the budget year that we're just going into. We also saw a significant increase in our at-risk funding and a significant decrease in our capital foundation funding. So those were two areas that we saw large changes. Any questions to that point?
I have one on the educator salary adjustment because when I was listening to the Public Ed Appropriations Committee meeting on Tuesday at the legislature, Ben Leishman, the legislative fiscal analyst who was doing a presentation there, made the suggestion to that committee that the educator salary adjustment is becoming large enough that it would make sense to roll it into the WPU. Do you see that? Have you heard that? And how would that change it?
I have not heard that. Just thinking off the top of my head, that would, right now it's based on the number of qualifying educators in each district. And if that funding is shuffled into the WPU, then it adjusts how it's allocated to each district. So some districts would receive more money, some districts would receive less money. Also, each district has placed that funding into their salary schedule in certain ways, and so depending on whether you got more or less, that could affect how your salary schedule looks going forward. So it would certainly warrant more discussion before a decision is made, in my opinion at least.
It was just a suggestion.
Okay, glad to hear that it's just a suggestion. All right, Delpha, let's go ahead. Oh, thank you. So total budgeted revenues, and sometimes these numbers just kind of shock you when you see them, but we operate with a budget this upcoming year of $314 million and a little bit beyond that. Our final budget for 2023 is just barely below that at $313 million. One of the differences to note there is that our final year budget includes all deferred revenues, carryover, and fund balance estimates. All of those are not yet built into the 24 budget because we won't know those numbers until we're actually into 24 for some. So the difference is actually larger between the two budgets, but as we present them now, they look very close to each other. Any questions on that or what I just said? I'm not sure if that made good sense or not. Okay, let's go to the next slide, Delpha. Revenue sources budgeted. So just speaking generally, we break down our revenue sources between local, state, and federal sources. Local includes property taxes, but also other sources. Our state revenue largely comes from income tax, but is allocated through the State Board of Education. And then federal revenues cover a variety of programs, such as school lunch, Title I, IDEA, or special ed services. And then below that, we have deferred revenue and fund balance. So you can just kind of compare what you see between the years there. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, now to dive into local revenue just a little bit more. Part of the public hearing this evening and what the board would be asked to approve is our set of tax rates for the upcoming year, which is the 2023 tax year. And so we do propose tax rates as part of this hearing. One thing to note, and I've highlighted it in a lighter blue color, the combined basic levy is actually set by the state, and it's the same rate throughout the state. So it's not a levy that is controlled or set by the school district. And one of the challenges we have in passing our budget each year is that we don't receive the combined basic levy until about June 20th to the 25th, sometime in that time period. So what I would be asking the board to do this evening, if you approve our tax rates, would be to approve the combined basic levy at whatever rate it is set by the state later this month. So the rate I show right now for FY24 is what the rate is for the current year, but it will likely be lower than what's shown there because that rate will float down a little bit this year. We issue a charter school levy. Although we don't operate charter schools, the state has set it up so that a charter school levy is issued by a school district for any charter schools that are within the boundaries of that school district. So we issue that levy, but we do not actually receive or spend any of those funds. That levy is received by Cache County and then sent directly to any charter schools within the county. Our locally controlled levies, what I'd be proposing tonight is a rate of 004150. And Delphi, if we can go to the next slide, I'll break that down just a little bit more. The voted local levy and the board local levy are levies that go straight into our general fund. And you can see that those would be floating down a little bit. Generally speaking, as property tax valuation goes up in our county, tax rates go down. The debt service levy is going up a little bit because our debt service payment this next year will be higher than the debt service payment of the year that we're currently in. And that doesn't require a truth in taxation hearing because it's part of our regular debt service payment schedule. And so state law allows a debt service levy to be whatever's required to pay your debt service for that year. The capital local levy, we're proposing moving that up, and at the same time the voted local levy is being moved down by the same amount. So this is essentially transferring funds that would go into the general fund instead into the capital fund. And it's about $1.5 million. And the reason for that is because of the reduction in capital state funding that we're receiving of $1.5 million. So this tax transfer, you might call it, keeps our capital funding at the same level that it was this year. Any questions about any of those rates?
No, but I'm glad that we have that option, or the flexibility of changing our local allocations so that we can make up the difference for that capital equalization lack.
Yeah, it is nice. And you can see right there that our rate for FY24 is just 1 point less than FY23. And if we go back up one slide, Delpha, the total rate will be less than the rate for the current year. But the 5833 that you see there will actually be less because the combined basic levy will be lower than what this year's is. We just don't know how much lower that will drop. Okay, let's advance a couple of slides then, and moving on to state revenue. So the majority of state revenue currently comes from the income tax, and we receive these allocations from the State Board of Education. The primary allocation is at the top, regular program K through 12, and that's the WPU funding. I mentioned earlier that value is $42.80 per full-time student next year. And so the total amount of funding that we qualify for is the $81.9 million that you see at the top. We also receive significant funding through the voted and board guarantee programs. These are state programs that guarantee a certain amount of revenue per student for the voted and board levies. So we levy our local property taxes, and if that doesn't generate the guaranteed revenue, then the state kicks in an extra amount. And you can see there that the voted and board guarantees generate $28 and $7 million for our school district, which is significant for our budget. The educator salary adjustment is essentially doubling, and that's the teacher amount of $4,200 that's going to $8,400. Professional staff and special ed are increasing due to the WPU increase of 6%. CTE funding, class size reduction, pupil transportation, preschool, and then TSSA is a program that the funding goes directly to schools, and school community councils and principals and staff are able to determine the most important uses for that funding to address academic needs in their schools. So that's a great program that allows schools to specifically address what they feel they need. Any questions on any of those state revenue sources?
I have another one, sorry. I'll be quiet after this.
You're good.
In the transportation revenue, is that from the state, do we receive 85%?
I haven't seen for sure if we're at a full 85%. We're very close, I know, and that has dramatically improved over the last 5 years. We were in the 60s, 60% or so. My best guess, Terry, is that we're still a little bit below 85%, but maybe 82 or 83.
So
but I would
close.
have to look and see. I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to the next slide, federal revenue. And this just highlights a few of the programs that we receive federal revenue for. IDEA is federal disabled funding or special ed funding, and we receive some of that for K-12 and also some for preschool. Title I is used in some of our schools to help pay for additional services that students might need. And then school food services obviously is in all of our schools to provide meals for students. And we project that to be about $5.5 million this upcoming year. Any questions on federal revenues? Okay. Now moving to expenditures by category for the upcoming year. You can see here that the lion's share of our budget goes towards salaries and benefits for our employees. And then beyond that, there are several categories of expenditures, supplies and materials being the most significant, debt service the next. But these are categories that are defined by the state's chart of accounts. So school districts all account for expenditures in a uniform way. And so these are the categories that we use for those. Any questions on the expenditure categories for next year?
What is the property expenditure for? Not property services, but the one that's 3 from the bottom?
Most of the expenditures in the 700 category called property are equipment expenditures. So those are items that are supply-like items, but equipment is defined as being $5,000 or more per item. So for example, a school bus, yes, would be in that category. A copy machine would be in that category, etc. Okay, looking at budgeted expenditures for the current year, this is just to kind of compare those percentages to the slide above, and they're very similar. Salaries and benefits, again, are the lion's share of our budget, with supplies and materials being the next category. Okay, on the next slide, Delpha, I have budgeted expenditures by fund. So This shows our primary funds that we use in the school district, and you can see that the general fund is our largest fund by far. The student activities fund is contains funds that are held at the school level. So if you took all of our school accounts and added them up, that's what the student activity fund would be. Tax increment is the funding that goes to charter schools, and I mentioned earlier that we don't receive or expend that money, but we are still required to put it in our books as a budget, and so that's what you see there. Debt service is the fund that we use to pay for our bonding projects. Capital projects is the fund we use to maintain our buildings or maintain or improve our buildings. School food services is self-explanatory. We run a health insurance fund. We have a self-funded insurance plan for our employees, and so that is the fund that we run the health insurance through. And then the trust fund is the Cache Education Foundation, which is a separate entity from the Cache County School District, but we are required to add CEF's books into our books, so to speak, for budgeting purposes. And go ahead.
Is capital projects lower for fiscal year 24 than fiscal year 23 because we're finished, because in 23 they were finishing, or we were finishing upgrades, and or what is the higher amount in 23 for the portables that we were paying for?
Yeah, so we had a large carryover in that fund that was essentially directed for the Green Canyon High School edition and the portables. Mm-hmm. And so as we've finished those projects and paid them out, that fund balance has gone away. Okay. So yeah, it could be a little deceptive when you look at that our capital fund is actually going down significantly. But the ongoing funds in the capital fund are actually higher in 24 than in 23.
So the difference here on this line is just the carryover.
Correct.
For those projects that we were involved in before.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay,
and that's my last slide. Unless anyone would like more detail, and I'm happy to talk about that. I went over the tax rates, so later on in the meeting for board members, you'd be asked to approve our tax rates, and again, that would include a state basic levy that hasn't been set yet, just to make sure that that's clear to each of you. Any questions?
So when somebody makes that motion, then you need us to make a motion including whatever changes happen between now and the 30th of June.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Jared. That was excellent. Next up, we have the consent agenda part of our meeting, and I will take a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the items on the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on that, on any of those items? Any questions? Seeing none, we will vote.
Voting is closed, and the motion to approve the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you, Jared. Moving on to our action agenda. Number 1 on that agenda is the request for approval of the negotiations with our employee groups. And I will take a motion on that.
I move that we approve the tentative negotiation agreements for the Cache Education Association, the Cache Educational Support Professionals Association, and the Administrators Association.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the negotiation agreements with our employee groups. Does anyone have any questions or discussion, comments?
Just thanks for all of the work that our district people did in helping this to work.
Yes, it was. It's pretty amazing to look at those negotiation agreements this year. I sort of felt rich when I looked at them and saw the types of the amount of raises that we're able to provide for our employees, and I appreciate all the work that went into that, into those negotiations. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the negotiation agreements with Cash Education Foundation, Cash Educational Support Professionals Association, and the Administrators Association. And so we will vote.
Voting is closed, and the motion to approve the negotiated agreements with the Cash Education Association, Cash Educational Support Professionals Association, and the Administrators Association passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next on the action agenda is a request for approval of the board meeting schedule. Hopefully you all had time to look at that. And so I will take a motion on that.
I make a motion to approve the 23-24 board meeting schedule.
Second?
Any discussion, comments, concerns?
I've got one. I noticed on our first Thursday meeting that we had this year, quite a few things that interfere with that, like NSBA, USBA, the Leadership Conference. And I thought maybe next year we could look at maybe changing our meetings to the 3rd and the 5th Thursdays. We do that?
Except that fifth Thursdays only happen 4 times a year. Ha, ha, ha. Always a comedian. You're right. There are a lot of conflicts on the first month or first week of the month in this on this upcoming schedule. Would you like to change any of those besides moving them to the 5th Thursdays?
No.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2023-24 board meeting schedule. Seeing no other discussion, we will vote.
Voting is closed, and the motion to approve the 2023-24 board meeting schedule passes unanimously.
Thanks, Jared. Moving on, we will we need to approve a resolution to adopt the tax rates for the tax year 2023. I will take a motion.
I move that we approve the resolution to adopt the tax rates for the tax year 2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the tax rates for the tax year 2023 as presented. Anyone have questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, we will vote.
Voting is closed, and the motion to approve the property tax rates for 2023 as presented passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next, we have a request to approve the final budget for fiscal year 2023.
I move that we approve the final budget for fiscal year '23.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the final budget for fiscal year 2023. We do need to amend the motion to approve it with whatever happens between now and the 30th of June. If you can do that.
Okay, I move that we amend the motion to include any changes that will be made through the end of the fiscal year.
Excellent. Thank you. And do we have a second for that amendment?
Second.
Thank you. So we will vote. Actually, we should have done a substitute, but we're going to slide that through. We will vote on the approval of the final legal budget for fiscal year 2023.
Voting is closed, and the motion to approve the final budget for the 2022-23 fiscal year and to give the business administrator authority to make year-end adjustments as necessary passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next, we have a request for approval of the preliminary budget for fiscal year 2024.
I move that we approve the preliminary budget for the fiscal year 23-24.
I second it.
Thanks. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the preliminary budget for the upcoming fiscal year 2024. And does anyone have any questions? Jared did such a great job explaining everything. I can't
That's great.
imagine that
Thanks,
we have
Jared.
any more. And so we will vote.
Voting is closed, and the motion to approve the proposed original budget for the 2023-24 school year passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you for all your work on those, Jared. We appreciate that. And not that all of that money stuff isn't fun, but we're glad to have the action agenda done and move on to something really fun, like the State of the Arts report. Take it away, Delpha.
First of all, I appreciate this opportunity to come and brag a little bit about what's going on with the arts in our district. I want you to know that I put out an email to the teachers and to Mount West Strings, and I got so much stuff back. Well, you could have been here till 10 o'clock, so I feel pretty good about my my efforts to cut it down enough that you won't all hate me before the evening's done. First of all, the students in our district are amazing, and they are doing fabulous things in all aspects of the arts, both the performing and visual arts. And I'm so grateful that we have the kind of programs that we have that allow them to develop their talents and grow and shine the way that they do. Oh, it did work from even here. Good. I wanted to share with you the goal of our arts in this district. This goal has been adopted by our secondary teachers in PLC meetings, and the elementary teachers have also accepted this as their common goal. So this is the goal for all the faculty in the arts in our district. The goal of the Cache County School District's arts programs is to ensure that by the time students graduate from high school, they have been enabled through quality arts experiences to explore their creativity, foster an appreciation for all arts, discover and develop their talents, develop critical thinking skills, acquire the self-discipline to facilitate lifelong learning, value their own and others' traditions and cultures, and work effectively with others to solve problems and create positive outcomes. It's really wonderful to have everyone on board working on this same goal with our students. So we're going to start with the elementary arts. And I just wanted to mention that arts courses are part of a well-rounded education and part of the Utah State Board of Education core standards beginning in elementary school and continuing through high school. There we go. I wanted to start by just mentioning the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Learning Program that affects our elementary educators in the arts. We want to express gratitude or thanks to the Utah Legislature and the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Learning Program, Arts Works for Kids, and all those who make this program possible in our district. So I'm just going to give a little brief recap of what this grant or this program does for us. It allows us to hire a certified arts teacher in either music or art in each one of our elementary schools. Last year, we had our last 2 schools come on board, so now all 17 of our elementary schools are participating in this grant program. So we have currently, this last year, we've had 7 music Beverly Taylor Sorensen arts educators and 10 visual arts Beverly Taylor Sorensen arts learning educators in our schools, and they are fantastic. One of their responsibilities under this program is to do arts integration with predominantly English language arts, but also with math, science, and social studies. And if you ever get a chance to go out and watch our BTS arts teachers in action, you'll see they're doing amazing integration to enhance and support student learning across the content areas. Okay, check my notes here. All right, we're going to start now with elementary music. This particular photograph is from the Sunrise Elementary Ukulele Club, and they meet before school. These kids love what they're doing and have had wonderful experiences because of their participation in this program. There are opportunities for student performances through assemblies and concerts at all of our schools, and which is absolutely wonderful. The students have opportunities to compose music, and in fact, one of our teachers shared that some of her students composed music on boomwhackers, and some composed music on ukuleles, and that they were able to share their compositions with the other students in their schools at school assemblies, which is a wonderful opportunity. These programs also allow students to develop leadership skills. Another of our teachers indicated that during their Veterans Day program, she had 3 different students lead the students in singing the veterans songs while she accompanied on the piano, and she said the students loved that leadership opportunity. Our students have experience with percussion instruments. They learn wind instruments, the recorder in 4th and 5th grade, and they get to study the ukulele in 6th grade, so that by the time our students leave elementary school, they've had experience vocally and with all the instruments that they could potentially participate with at the secondary level. So I want to give a shout out, there it goes, to our elementary music specialists. This is a dynamic group of teachers. We have a little bit of turnover happening this year, so some of these teachers won't be back with us, but they've done a wonderful job. And you'll notice the ones in parentheses, it says BTS. Those are our BTS grant arts educators. And they're not only really great teachers and they have a wonderful time with the children and help the children love things, but they are working to improve themselves constantly. For example, Marcia Joss up there from Sunrise shared that she's very proud of the fact that she got her bachelor's degree during this last year at 48 years old. And I think that says a lot, that while she was teaching and working with these students and taking care of family, she also had that educational goal. And we have 2 of our music specialists right now who are participating in the Master of Arts teaching program through Westminster College and are seeking to get a master's degree as well as a professional teaching license. So I'm really proud of them for not only lifting their students, but working to lift themselves. And they all come to professional development meetings and network with each other. It's wonderful. Okay. So I wanted to mention just a couple of things that are outside of the regular classroom experience, basically. One that we participated in this year was the Orchestra Sings Carnegie Hall Link-Up program. And what this involves is the Carnegie Hall Education Group has come up with different pieces of music that students can sing with, play along with, listen to, and come to understand music history through, and do movement and participate that way. The music specialists teach the music to the students as part of their curriculum. All of the things that they teach match our district arts curriculum, and then they come together in the Danes Concert Hall with the American Festival Chorus and Orchestra, and the Cash Children's Choir also joins in, and they perform these songs or participate in these songs. It's very interactive, and we had a fun time, those of us who were able to go who were not teaching the students, just to watch the joy on the students' faces. And one of the teachers wrote, "I will never forget the looks on their faces as some of them witnessed a live performance for the very first time. And for some of our students, this may be the only live performance they ever see." So it's an amazing experience, and the kids had a wonderful time. 10 of our schools participated in it this year. They took one grade level, either 4th or 5th grade, and we'll see where it goes in the future. They have a lot of students who want to participate. But it was really wonderful. And I asked Mountain West Strings to give us some highlights. This particular picture is them performing with the Cash Children's Choir in the Danes Concert Hall. They were invited to join with them for a performance, which was really great. Laura Morgan shared that the students in their program learned to express themselves in unique and beautiful ways. Whoops, I'm reading the wrong one. I'll come back over here. Oh, through classes, concerts, school assemblies, etc. They did a practice-a-thon in the spring. The students practiced 90,448.5 minutes. And their ambassador group took a trip to Salt Lake City and visited the Peter Pryor's violin-making school and instrument shop. And they went to Temple Square and joined with Orchestra Temple Square to perform together there. And then she added a note that they also, at their final concert, recognized Superintendent Norton for, quote, "all his support to the orchestra students in Cache County. We appreciate him so much." And certainly he has done a lot for that program and supported them well. All right. Now moving to elementary theater. We have many of our elementaries that are performing full-scale musicals, sometimes a Broadway musical, junior version, sometimes original works by teachers or students, and it's really wonderful that they have these opportunities for the students to gain confidence and build lasting friendships, express themselves in a positive way, develop their talents, and a lot of the students who participate in these elementary musical experiences in theater move on to participate in theater at the middle school and high school level. So it's exciting to see that growth as they move up. Okay, elementary visual arts. Students love going to art. It's a break from the day and a beautiful time to find unique ways to express themselves. You can see in these different projects here that there are many ways that they're allowed to grow and express themselves. Through drawing, painting, ceramics, other sculpture, etc. So Nibley Elementary, I spotlighted their work here because they were one of 4 schools out of the state who were able to have their work displayed at the Utah State Board of Education offices. And they had 20 students whose artwork is on display up there. They also had 20 students who were chosen to participate in the Creativity Unbound art exhibit that the Beverly Taylor Sorensen partnership there at the university provides each year at the exhibit hall at USU. And it's really great that the students can go and see their work in a true art exhibit, not just in a school hallway. So it's a really awesome experience. And then our Millville students, several students' art was chosen for the Cache Valley Art in Transit bus, which was really big for those kids. So these are wonderful experiences that come through the arts. Natalie Nish, who is the visual arts Beverly Taylor Sorensen specialist out at Birch Creek, was chosen this year as the Utah Art Educators Association winner of the Utah Elementary Education Educator of the Year Award. You can see from these pictures samples of some of the amazing projects she's done with her students. Interestingly enough, Mandy Sig, who is also from our district, won this award last year, which says a lot about the quality of the arts educators that we have working with our elementary students. These are all of our elementary visual arts specialists in the elementary level. Again, the BTS indication shows that they are certified teachers working under that special grant. They are amazing teachers that spend, I'm sure, many hours beyond what any of us knows or understands in preparing materials and lessons and enriching experiences for the students. Just a wonderful group to work with and very supportive of one another as well as the students. Okay, this slide is an example of what's happening in some of our dual language immersion schools with arts immersion. This was the Sunrise Elementary Portuguese Language Day, and you can see the different art projects that were done in connection with that event to help the children learn more about the culture that goes along with the language that they're studying. And then Sunrise Elementary has for years, through their art teacher, Lori Pomeroy, participated in the Youth Art Month flag competition through the UAEA, and we've very frequently had students win in different levels of that competition. So sixth grade is considered part of middle school in this competition. So the winner for middle school was a sixth grader from Sunrise, and then the elementary school winner was also from Sunrise Elementary. So I thought it was good to brag about those student achievements. Okay, we're going to move on to the secondary arts. I hope I'm not taking too long. I'm sorry, I'm trying to talk fast. Okay, so in secondary arts, we have dance, music, theater, and visual arts. And again, the students are doing wonderful things in all areas here. We're going to start with dance. And right now, we only have one official dance company in our district that's housed at Green Canyon High School. And I just thought it would be good to spotlight this group to head off this area. And the students who participate in dance, whether it's through this or through social dance, gain so much confidence and build their talents and have a lot of great social interaction through that experience. These are our current dance faculty. You'll notice that we have social dance at every one of our traditional high schools, and these classes are very popular with the students. They love to participate, and the teachers do a wonderful job with that.
Delta?
Yes.
Sorry. Do you consider, like, they call them drill teams, but they're not really drill teams anymore, they're dance teams. Do you consider them part of any of the arts?
We have not, because the state does not consider them part of the arts. And so we have their social dance is both, there are social dances that meet fine arts standards, and there are social dance classes that meet PE standards. And so depending on which thing the arts educator is endorsed in, that's kind of the direction we have to go with, where they get their credit for that. But drill team doesn't fall under the fine arts category at this point.
But they're really not drill teams anymore. They're dance groups, right?
Well, I think in many ways that's true, but they're still referenced by the state as drill team. So,
Okay. Just wondering.
yeah.
Thanks.
And that, you know what, the state's very open to things being changed if need be, so we can always say, hey, look at this as an option. So, Okay, I just wanted to give you a couple of quick facts about this dance company because I think they've only been in existence for a couple of years, and it's due to the passion of Brittany Bailey, who wanted to get that going, and the students who desperately wanted it. So I just wanted to mention that they participated in a variety show in collaboration with their choir and theater department. And they've performed at halftime shows for basketball, for both men's and women's basketball. And they participated in a state adjudication where they did their performances and received feedback from judges on how they did. They did a spring concert that included 22 dances, and 20 of those were choreographed by the students. And only one by the teacher and one by a guest choreographer, but the students took the responsibility to design and then teach the dances to each other, which is pretty awesome. Okay, secondary music. We have band and choir and orchestra at all 4 high schools and guitar at 3 of the 4 high schools. And the students who participate in these programs often participate in more than one and often also participate in theater, particularly the musical theater aspect. So they're very busy young people. They're doing great things with their music. They consistently get high ratings at state and region competitions. They are also doing things with composition. In fact, the Green Canyon, if I'm going to say this right, the Green Canyon Orchestra and Choir performed a piece at Christmas time that was written by one of their students for choir and full orchestra. So that was pretty amazing. They give service and they collaborate with each other. The North End schools this year did a joint choir festival for middle school and high school students on the North End. It was a wonderful experience and so great that we're hoping to repeat it and possibly begin other programs like that with our secondary music students. And also Mount Crest shared that every time they had a home game where their choir was singing the national anthem and they were competing against a team that was in our district, they invited the choir from that team to come sing the national anthem with them. Cool. So it was really good. Mm-hmm. Good positive PR between the schools. So here's our music faculty this past year. This amazing group of talented people who not only teach our students but are all actively involved in making music themselves in pit orchestras, or we have a couple who serve in the military and play in the band there. They are really devoted, wonderful educators, and it's a pleasure to work with them. They also spend a lot of extra hours doing extracurricular things with our students so that they can participate in competitions and things like that. Okay, I don't have pictures of these accompanists, but I have to tell you that they are vital to our choir programs. And up until a couple of years ago, we did not have choir accompanists. And when Superintendent Norton gave permission for that to move forward, you could have heard the cheers from the choir directors for miles. They were so excited that they could actually get out from behind the piano and work directly with the students and have the support at the piano that allowed them to do that. So even though I don't have their pictures, these people deserve a big shout out for the service they give. And very often they help lead sectionals and do more than just sit behind the piano and play. They're the right-hand person for the choir director. It's pretty awesome. Okay, secondary theater. Wow, there's a lot of stuff going on in secondary theater. Between a couple of middle school productions and the high school productions, we have at least 14 full-length productions this year, and that's a big amount of productions. And in addition to just the productions that they do, they also participate in region and state competitions and the Utah Theater Association competitions. So they're very, very busy people. Often our theater teachers are the last to leave the building at the end of the day. We also have 2 improv troupes, one at Mount Crest and one at Ridgeline. It's wonderful to see those kids develop the ability to think on their feet and be hilarious at the same time. It's really great.
Randall.
It's really awesome. So here's our theater faculty, and we just appreciate the hours of time they spend. And not only do they teach the students, but they give them leadership opportunities that allow them to really take charge. So if they put a student over costumes, the student is over the costumes. If they have a stage manager, they don't sit backstage and make sure everything's going right. They give that responsibility to the student stage manager. And it's just wonderful to see the growth in leadership ability as the students are trusted with a big responsibility. Okay, secondary visual arts. We're on the last section. This is the logo that was chosen for the Young Writers and Artists Fest. It was a design produced by one of our students at South Cache, and I thought that Look to Tomorrow tagline there just really represents our visual arts throughout the district. Amazing, wonderful things happening in the visual arts area. So here are our visual arts faculty. You can see there are a lot of people teaching these arts classes to our students. They help our students find the knowledge and skills to express themselves in really beautiful artwork. They also build their own skills, and they share their expertise with others, each other and others. For example, Tom Knight presented a session at the recent Utah Art Educators Association conference on decorative techniques of ceramic art. So they're working to share their expertise in many different ways, as well as with their students. So this is a sample of some artwork from Grand Canyon High School. I didn't have time or even samples from every school to share with you, but I think these are representative of the quality of art that is being produced. So Lucy Britch is the junior at Green Canyon High School, and she had 2 pieces of artwork accepted to the State High School Art Show in Springville. And these 2 pieces are now on display, one at the state capitol and one at Deseret Book. And the teacher shared that Lucy is the youngest artist to have artwork on display at Deseret Book, which is really quite an honor and says a lot about the talent there.
Is this Deseret Book in Salt Lake?
Yes,
Okay.
I think so, because I think it's in Salt Lake. Whoops, I went too far. Okay, so another student, Denise Zamora, had a piece of artwork accepted at the State High School Art Show, and then it sold for $1,500. He said that she received a check for $1,050. I'm not sure why she didn't get the whole $1,500 or if he switched numbers around, but she was really excited to have created a piece of artwork that somebody wanted enough to pay that kind of money for. That's the one that's on the right. And then the one on the left is a piece that's currently completed and could be sold. It would go for about $2,000. So it is possible for students to earn money from their art, and that's a cool thing for them to know. These are some ceramic pieces, just to give you an example of the quality of ceramics work being done throughout the district. These particular pieces are from Skyview. And a few more. And then this is our last slide, and I'm going to finish off with this quote from Tanner Stephenson. He has done several murals throughout the district. I believe these are at Cache High, but he says about his work, "I paint 50-foot reminders that greatness is the goal of education." And I think they're beautiful murals and a great thing for our students to look at that and be reminded. I had to share this quilt from South Cache. Our art teacher at South Cache had a baby this year, and her long-term sub worked with the students. They created the artwork and they made this quilt for her, which was, I thought, a pretty lovely thing to do for her. I just want to conclude by saying that I really feel that our arts educators and our students who are involved in the arts are working toward greatness. And I get emotional because they're like my kids or something. I don't know. I value what they are doing, and I appreciate the support that you give as a body to the arts programs in our district, and that you're often there at arts events, watching art shows, attending concerts, going to plays. It says a lot that our school board cares enough about the arts to be there. So thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to work with these awesome people.
Thank you, Delpha. That was awesome. But you're not allowed to present again if you're going to cry, because I'm a social crier.
I am so sorry.
Thank you, Delpha. They couldn't achieve what they do without your guidance and help. You know, I'm a strong supporter of the arts. And as a teacher, I always felt like for some of the students, it was that one class each day that got them to school. And I really appreciate all the work that is done for all of our students. For them to have a chance to perform is awesome. And it's the arts that makes us human. If we took that out of the school, we'd be really missing a piece of helping our students succeed in a changing world. Thank you.
And I still want to see an art gallery in our district office. I'm still having envy of Granite School District. So, Dr. McKee, that's not your number one priority, but it should be very high on the list, because I've been asking for 2 years. Thank you, Delpha. That was awesome. Now we're going back to finances. Jared, your exciting financial report for May.
Not nearly as fun. Delpha, my wife, is an artist. Her degree's in illustration, and so although I have zero talent in the arts, it's really fun to see what the students are doing, and I'll have to have my wife watch your presentation. I think she'll really like it. So you do a great job. I've attached to the agenda a financial report for May. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention. In our audits update, I thought we were done for the year, but we got selected for another audit, which is a land trust audit. So I've tacked that one on. We've submitted our general ledger information for that audit, and we'll see where it goes from there. Second thing I wanted to comment on is that this summer we will have a payroll change for our teachers. Traditionally, we have paid the June, July, and August payrolls all in June. And at the request of a high majority of teachers, we're changing that to pay those out monthly. For accounting and fiscal year purposes, we'll still process all of those payrolls in June, but we won't pay out July and August until the end of July and August. So just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. If you get any questions, you're welcome to refer any of those to me to talk through with our employees. That's all I had to mention.
Wow, that's it? Oh, sorry, let me pull my head into finance instead of arts. Audits. So are all of these listed audits, they were all in the past 12 months, right?
Yes, either we were doing work on them in the past 12 months or they began in the last 12 months.
Okay.
I think 2 or 3 of them began more than 12 months ago, but we were still working on them
Okay,
in the last 12 months, yes.
thank you very much. What are we talking about here?
I don't know.
Okay, yes. Yes. So this is a discussion that we need to have as board members that can be implemented with district directors to, and anyone who wants to put something on the agenda. It seems that we have allowed things to slide to the point where we are having agenda items added at the last minute, and it's hard for us to get everything read. Please tell me so Kathy and I have talked about it already when we're in our agenda planning meetings with the superintendent. But we'd like some input from everyone else on the board to find out, what do you feel should be the process? How soon do you want the information for the agenda? When do you want to see it? Do you like it how it's going? Is it fine? Do you want to see some changes?
So in the past, we tried to have the agendas out to the board by Monday. So if whatever material was necessary for us to read, we'd have time to do it, especially for those people who are working. And little by little, the material is not coming in fast enough that it can be put out by Monday. So what is your thought? Are you fine with having to scramble the last day to try and read everything? Or, because it did work for a few years, having it out on Monday. And it might just be a matter of letting the department heads know, here's the deadline, and if you don't get it in by this date, by this day, then it'll have to go on the next one.
I'm fine with Monday, but I realize that sometimes things come up, they need to be put on, so I'm okay with that. But I don't work, well, I do work. No, I'm fine.
Emily, did you want to give some? No, we didn't.
We didn't know that. And then, is it difficult for you to add other attachments on if someone has a good excuse to put it on late? Okay. Well, especially if we look at it and think we're done, then we don't even see it until we get here. Okay.
Which is what I did today, and then I scrambled to email to Emily, and anyway, we had an interesting email discussion about that.
My opinion is that we should have everything by Monday. And like you said, Roger, sometimes people do have a legitimate reason why they can't get it on. But if everybody is like that, then you are scrambling the last day and not really being able to study it, just get through it.
I think sometimes we just have to kind of remind again and set the standard in front of everybody. But I think if we could have it by Monday, that would be more likely that I'll be able to get through everything. I have my fishing trip scheduled by Monday, and so I know how to blend them then.
Excellent.
Well, we do have a life, right?
Right.
Everybody does.
We do, and all of our lives include different things. Some include fishing. Some are easier than others. That's right.
I'm just curious, maybe Jared could tell us about other districts, kind of what their policy is, what your former district, how, do you have a timeline or?
In Emory, we would have the agenda sent out by the Friday prior, but our meetings were on Wednesday nights.
How about Provo?
Items are sent to the board Friday prior to the meeting, which occurs on Tuesday.
So Monday would not be unreasonable compared to what other districts are doing. Okay.
Yeah. I think it'd be a good idea to let everybody know that's what the expectation is.
Shall I make a poster and we can hang it in the district office?
No, I mean, it's just like a teacher giving an assignment. This is due on this day, but if something tragic comes up or whatever, we'll take it the next day.
So your dog has to die for you to get approval to get it on
Whatever.
between Monday and Thursday?
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. What do you department heads think? If you have a deadline, will you make it, or is that asking too much?
Gary can do whatever we ask. He just said that.
think that's great.
Well, and it would be good for Emily to not be the bad guy, but for the board to be the bad guys and say, this is our rule, and like it or lump it.
And then the department heads kind of support it and help us make sure that it's,
Or we can make the superintendent the bad guy. But we don't like to do that, because we're seven. We're seven altogether, so we can carry that load. That's not a big deal.
so is that taken care of here, or does something more need to happen somewhere when school begins again to let everyone know, here's the expectation?
We can discuss that when we have our
Retreat?
retreat or our agenda planning, next agenda planning meeting.
Okay, sounds great.
How we'll get that information out.
Okay, sounds great.
Or agenda, we could have agenda posted on the homepage of the webpage, right? All you people who want something on the agenda. This is the new rule, or we're reinforcing the old rule.
Just tell them if they're late, they have to face Kathy with justification.
That's right.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Thank you for your input. Next up, we have board member reports, and we have, before Kathy does her, we'll leave Kathy for the end of board member reports, because I have a question about, well, we'll leave that for another time. Let's hear Kathy's
Okay.
presentation.
Just a couple of things. Is everyone still okay with having the board cookout after our next board meeting? Is there any conflicts? We need to change it? It would be July 6th after the board meeting. That would include all of us with spouses plus Todd and his wife as well.
And Emily and her husband,
Oh, yeah. Do you want to come too?
and Jared and his wife.
Yeah, well, this is, okay. Email me if it's a problem. I'll send out an email and try to get assignments for salads, and we'll just kind of do things the way we did before. I thought it might be kind of fun to do a little bit of a get acquainted activity so that Todd can get acquainted with us a little bit. So I'll roll this idea past you and then pass it along to your spouses. If you really hate it, let me know, and we'll see if we can come up with something else. Would everyone just think of maybe one thing about themselves that probably the rest of us don't know? That would be it could be an experience that you had, or some special award that you won, or some exciting thing that happened, kind of short, that you could write it down in one sentence. Does that
Are we
sound,
supposed to write it?
when you get to the party,
Okay.
I'll give you the directions on that. And I'll let Jeff and Chris know, and I'll remind you. If That's
Okay.
okay? All right?
And before you do your presentation, we have some conflict with holding our board retreat on the 24th of August. So is there another Tuesday we could do that in August? There are 5 Thursdays, Randall. We could have a meeting on the 5th Thursday that month if you'd like.
Any of them works for me.
What was the problem with the 24th? Is there,
Larry won't be here.
oh, okay, no problem.
He's going golfing that day, huh?
No, probably fishing. It's Larry.
No, theater. Getting my arts experience.
There you go. What if we did it the same week, only on the Tuesday?
Same.
So that would be the 22nd?
Oh, you mean the 22nd?
I'll actually be down there. I have
He'll be gone forever.
Okay,
it to a con every night that week.
Yeah.
okay,
He's really getting his arts all at once.
awesome. 15th?
Well, we could do the 10th or the 31st.
Yeah.
I won't be
Because,
here on the 10th.
okay, that's right. That's why we didn't do it on the 10th. Anyone have issues with the 31st? Probably someone will who's not here, but of those of us who are here, is the
31st is
work?
good for me.
It's good for me.
All right. We'll tentatively move it to the 31st. And then we're good. Okay, Kathy, give us
Okay.
your song and dance.
Well, the board wanted to do something kind of special for Steve, since this was going to be his last meeting, and then he was unable to come. So I'm going to present it just in case he's watching, and thousands of other people are also watching as well, so they can see the presentation that we were going to do, and then we'll get it to Steve sometime before the end of this month. It's called Steve Norton is Getting Ahead. Heads up, everyone. It looks like that devil retirement is about to rear its ugly head in Steve's direction. Now, this won't be over anyone's head, and I'm sure we'll all be able to make heads and tails out of this because it is no head scratcher. Steve has always been a cool head, not a sore head, airhead, big head, dead head, egg head, or one to bite off your head. He has never tried to drum something into someone else's head or bring anyone's head in on a platter. Just a heads up, a headliner, in fact. We know that Steve is heads and shoulders above other superintendents in Utah. In fact, he has a good head on his shoulders and has always done everything he could to help our district get ahead. As he retires, he's not going to bury his head in the sand, bang his head against a wall, cause any heads to roll, or try to make heads or tails out of the future yet. He's just going to try to get a head start as his superintendent profession comes to a head. Speaking of heads, what makes up a person's head? It has a skull with a lower jawbone and cranium that houses a brain. It has a face with 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 nose, and 1 tongue. Together, these organs function as a processing center for the body by relaying sensory information to the brain. During the past 27 years, Steve has been working his head off, relaying information to his brain. He has kept track of students, teachers, administrators, classified personnel, finances, capital outlays, salaries, benefits, insurance expenditures, board meetings, contracts, bond elections, legislators, in-class visits, equity, bus routes, snow days, late starts, professional development, PLCs, safety drills, parent concerns, employee morale, yada, yada, yada. So, Steve, you must realize that we are head over heels for all you have done for the Cache County School District. We know you have always wanted to get ahead, and of course, we all realize you have a head, a good head. But as you head on down the road, we would like to make sure you do get ahead, a head, a personalized head, to help you remember the positive impact you have had on our district and our appreciation. Thanks to Steve.
Thank you, Kathy. Our board president report is just that. Between now and the next time we meet, we will have a superintendent transition. So I hope you guys are all ready for that. And seeing there is no superintendent here, and seeing we have, there is no Steve Norton superintendent here, and that we have arrived at the end of our agenda, we will adjourn.